Communicative English, and in today's class, we are going to talk about or we are going to discuss the topic related to listening skills. Now, we all know listening is very important, but are we really listening to what others are saying? Here, there is a big challenge. The challenge comes because of the attention that we pay, the concentration that we have, the focus that we pay to the others when they are speaking. So let us understand what are the different types of listening, and are like if you really want to become a good listener, what are the tips, what are the things that you have to keep in your mind if you really want to improve your listening ability. So let us start this session by understanding the different types of listening. The first one is called as passive listening. When do we call it as passive listening? When we are not paying attention with complete concentration. Now, I want you to once again concentrate on certain sounds or certain noises that are produced when you are listening to this particular video lecture. Of course, the noise and the sounds are already there in existence, but unless and until I did not ask you to pay your attention, you were hearing them. Your concentration was onto my voice. So therefore, please remember, when you do not concentrate, and the process of the ear is to hear, and when they hear the different noise without complete concentration, we call it as passive listening. Then comes marginal, which is again called as partial listening. When you don't read, or when you are not listening to the things in totality or entirety, when you are not completely focusing, your focus is deterred, your concentration is deterred. When you are switching your concentration from focusing to non-focusing or not unfocused. So please remember, such kind of listening is called as marginal listening, where you listen only partial things, like eavesdrop. Many a time you must have seen that while passing by or when you are engaged into something very important, but if somebody says or takes your name, immediately you start listening to what they are saying. Such kind of listening is called as marginal listening. Then comes projective listening. Projective listening is also called as selective listening. Why do we call it as projective or selective listening? The reason is very simple. Here, the listener will decide what to listen, what not to listen. It is he who is going to have the complete attention, or he is going to have the complete command or hold on what to listen and what not to listen. So such kind of listening is called as selective listening. You decide what you want to listen, right? Under the selective, it is you, the listener, who will keep his or her concentration onto the topic. When he or she finds that the topic that they are discussing or the topic that is being informed or shared is not of your interest and choice, you may change, you may shift, or you may switch your thought process onto something else. Such kind of listening is called as projective listening. Then comes empathetic listening. Empathetic listening is a kind of listening where you emphasize on certain things. You are emphasizing on certain topic. You are emphasizing on the attention part or focus part or concentration part, so that the reader and the reader, the sender, the speaker, the person whosoever is communicating can grab the complete attention of the listener. Now, please remember, whenever there is a person who is reading, who is speaking, if he or she hooks you up with his voice, the kind of listening that you're going to do is empathetic. I want you to recall the days when you were in your class two, three, four, five, but teachers used to ask you to do different actions along with saying the words. So, what the teacher was trying to do, the teacher was trying to hook your concentration along with the action so that you can repeat those words. The kind of listening that you were doing was empathetic, and if you were not emphasizing on what the teacher was trying to say, probably they might have given you a punishment of saying or asking you to repeat the same word maybe twice, maybe thrice, maybe 10 times. So such kind of listening is called as empathetic, where this a person whosoever is speaking, the speaker of the information, will not let the audience or the listener get way higher. However, so please remember, whenever, like if the listener is haywired, it becomes very difficult for the person, for the sender to grab the attention. So to hook the audience, to grab the attention of the audience, that is the listener, they try to connect or they try to emphasize by increasing the volume, or by bringing the change in the tonality, or by even reducing the gap between the speaker and the listener. Do you remember the proximity that we discussed about the forms of communication and those things, the verbal and non-verbal are going to play a very important role when we talk about empathetic listening. And finally, the active listening. Trust me, boys and girls, too difficult to practice, but it's not impossible. You all should understand the importance of active listening, because as a student of management or as a student of technology, you all should have a proper understanding about what active listening is and why it is important. Many a times it happens that when you are listening to a person and if you do not pay attention, most of the important topic or points you may skip to hear. So therefore, if you are having active listening skills, it is going to help you to grab the information in right quantum and at the right time, at right place. Hearing and listening to the people and knowing or grabbing the right information is utmost required, and you have to understand the importance of active listening. And for that, you have to always concentrate on what the speaker is saying. You have to have only one single thought. You cannot sail on two boats while listening to a person. You cannot think something else. If you're thinking something else, you cannot listen to the other person. So if you talk about active listening, exactly trying to connect with the speaker, what the speaker is saying. If you can imagine exactly the same thing, or if you repeat the same words in your mind, such kind of listening is called as active listening. Now, when we talk about active listening, this is again very, very important and it can be developed. How can we develop this active listening? You have to overcome the deterrents of listening for that. You have to work out on ego. You should shun ego. There is nothing which is called as I know everything. I know this in a better way when compared to the others. Avoid that ego level. Try to work out on mental block. Do not think on multiple things when you are listening to someone. Wrong grammar. If the person is communicating in a wrong way, or even if the speaker is communicating with wrong grammar structure, it will create hindrance for the people to understand. Remember the barriers of communication that we have discussed in the previous classes, wherein we talked about perspective, where we discussed about the cultural barrier, the language barrier. And again, when we talk about the language barrier, under it, grammar plays very significant role, and you cannot exclude or you cannot say or you cannot eliminate that the grammar is not important. Of course, the rules that we have studied or we have learned in our childhood days related to grammar must be applied. Fear of speaking in front of others, again, that will create a gap between the speaker as well as the listener. Similarly, the listener must not be afraid of listening to the other. They should have that confidence level, they should have that understanding level, and they have to overcome that barrier from their mind. Preconceived notion that I know everything. Again, this is wrong. You have to overcome this. You need to understand that there are certain things which are said in a different way. And if you can understand the perspective, you can definitely grab the information and you can also enhance the knowledge skill. Familiarity trap. That is, I know it. Without listening, how can you know? So try to listen to the people first to overcome the familiarity trap. Stress, when you are in stress, you cannot listen to people in a proper way. And even if you do not have the level of interest, you cannot listen to the people in a proper way. So overcome these deterrents. These are very important. And how can we overcome these deterrents? First thing is, don't check the credibility of the sender. Have faith, have complete faith on the person who's speaking. If you become judgmental, if you believe that the other person, the one who is speaking, is not going to fare well or is not going to speak well, is not going to share the new things or new ideas, and you know far better than him or her, you cannot become an active listener. So if you really want to become an active listener, don't check the credibility of the sender, believe him or her, have the positive attitude, develop the concentration. And in case if you find that this is not interesting, you can start asking relevant question, not to check the knowledge skills but to connect with the speaker, so that the speaker can have complete confidence on the listener. If you have these things applied in your life, what are you going to do? You will have the positive connotation of being the good listener. And for that, you need to have the wider perspective. You have to broaden this perspective. You have to have that increased sense of competency. If you cannot develop these, you cannot become good listener. If you really want to become a good listener, know more, Try to explore more, try to listen more. As there is a beautiful saying, God has blessed us with 2 ears and one single mouth. But in fact, what do? We have the interest more into speaking and less into listening. So change it. Understand the importance of having 2 ears and try to listen more, try to grab more, try to understand the perspective from the different angles, from the different people, from the different personas. And then this enhances your knowledge. It also helps you to widen your understanding level. And at the same time, once when you broaden your wide aspect of understanding, it is going to decrease the defensiveness. And once when you work out on these, certainly you will see that you can improve your ability of understanding, and this will help you in improving your listening process. So what are the things that you're going to do if you really improve the art of listening? The first thing that you're going to do is it will help you to understand the process of listening in the better way. It will also help you to bring in that effectiveness in your communication. If you listen well, you can communicate well. If you do not listen properly, you cannot communicate well. So be a good listener first to become a good speaker. Always understand the right amount of information is required to speak well. And that right amount of information can be grabbed only when you are listening. Even if you are reading on your own, unless and until you are not putting your attention, and if you are not listening to what you are reading, you cannot grab the information. So therefore, it is very important to understand what is it that you are listening and how to put that information in your memory box. Be very sensitive to the speaker's view. Do not humiliate, do not insult, do not believe that I know everything and he and she knows nothing. So if you are having that attitude, you cannot be a good listener. So please understand the importance of speaker. Try to bring that comfortability, try to develop that compatibility between you and the speaker, so that speaker finds it easy, and he also or she also finds it very comfortable in order to present his or her thoughts in front of you, so that you can listen to him or her with complete attention. Interest is very important. Developing your eye contact while listening to the person with that positive smile, not to humiliate, but to make him or her comfortable. Also remember, it is very important to grab the attention of the speaker. Unless and until you don't grab, say for example, you are properly making an eye contact, but time and again you are gazing at him or her, that is going to create that fear factor in the speaker's mind. So therefore, have that proper intention of understanding what the speaker is going to speak, and then listen to him or her with compatibility. And also listen and then evaluate yourself whether you are listening to the right information or not, whether you have understood the information in a proper way or not, whether you could completely understand the shared information or not. When you do this, you will certainly improve your listening ability. So, dear friends, in this chapter, we discussed about the different types of listening. We also discussed about what are the deterrents, what are the factors that can stop in developing the active listening skills. We talked about the factors that can help us in order to be a good listener. What are the skills that are required to become a good listener? And then what are the common checklists that we have to always keep in our mind and we should keep checking while or listening to the others. So we are going to talk about or discuss about some other topic in the next class. Till then, take care of yourself and have a fantastic day ahead.